You do not want to miss this episode. It's my favorite chapter of What Would the Rockefellers Do? We're going to dig into how to maximize your financial efficiency and your earning potential. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound. I'm Darren Mitchell, and joining me as always, Christina Wyatt. Christina, how you doing today?
Hey, Darren, I am doing great. You are right. This is an awesome chapter in the book, and I'm super excited to dig into it.
Yeah, I love this chapter. We're going to dig into some calculators, truth concepts Garrett uses in this chapter. And I remember years ago being at a truth concepts training down in the States, and when they showed this kind of calculator and what we're going to talk about today, it just blew me away. And I was like, wow, everything I thought I knew to be true wasn't. And so I'm excited about that. So we're going to talk about What Would the Rockefellers Do? Chapter 11, maximize your financial efficiency and earning potential. And we're really going to dig into, it's not just how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. And you know, some people say that phrase and kind of just throw it out there. Well, we're going to back it up and actually show concrete examples on how we can help people do on this. So most people focused on making more money or finding a higher return. And we're going to kind of dispel that myth. That's not the way to go. So we want to talk about keeping more of what you already have in your hands. And of course, if you want to be efficient, we got to dig into that number one wealth destroyer, tax. How do you tackle tax? If you don't tackle tax, it's going to be pretty hard to be wealthy in this country. So I'm excited to get going here.
Yep, absolutely. Garrett agrees with us on that one for sure. We're going to dig into that. Now, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, if you're listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you always know when new content is coming out. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us that 5-star review. And something else I want to remind everybody of is that coming up on November 25th, we are going to be having a masterclass, a What Would the Rockefellers Do masterclass. And at this masterclass, we are going to have the author, Garrett Gunderson himself, come on, sit down, talk to us. But we're going to have a focus on the Canadian Rockefeller Method. So Darren and I are going to be talking about the foundation. We have Jim McGowan coming in, an amazing accountant that's going to walk us through the trust piece. And then we've got Garrett that's going to tie it all together for us. So if you've been interested in learning more about the Canadian Rockefeller Method, this is your chance. We have a link down below where you can sign up. So you're not going to want to miss out.
Can't be more excited about that.
Yes.
Those two guys are two of the smartest people I've ever come across in my entire career. And the idea of having them together and talking about this method for anyone listening that has any interest in the Rockefeller Method, any business owner, you got to check this out. It's going to be awesome. Okay, Christina, let's dig into this first section where Garrett kind of really hits home on efficiency. So why don't you start there?
Yeah, so he really drives in on the point that it's not about what's happening outside, the things that we can't control, which I completely agree with. It's about what's happening inside and your own cash flow system. So what can we work on inside of our cash flow system that's going to create more wealth for us long term? And a couple of the pieces that he likes to dig into are taxes, interest, and fees. Those are the three. So, and he's saying, like, think about it. If you can make small changes in the efficiencies of these things, let's say you can figure out how to save $5,000 a year in taxes, $5,000 of fees, $5,000 of interest, that's $15,000 that you've saved in a year. And if you think about that, you would have to invest $300,000 and earn a 5% return in order to get that exact same return. You don't really have control over that if you're going to get that 5% return or not, right? So what he wants us to focus on and think about and open up our mind about in this chapter is, what are the leaky faucets, or what can we plug? What can we fix? What can we, break down and eliminate these different wealth destroyers, we call them wealth destroyers, to be able to increase our wealth. So that's what we're digging into.
Yeah, I like that example. And I mean, that doesn't even take into consideration tax. So if you're in a 50% tax bracket, the money you're saving, that's after tax dollars. And if you had 600,000 earning 5%, you earn 30 grand and you're in a 50% tax bracket, then you net that 15. So it's like throwing an extra 600 grand in your portfolio just by eliminating or getting more efficient in some of those three categories you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that I want to mention, and that he says in the book too, it's not about budgeting and trying to save all these like that's where so many people get caught up, and it's like, let's make a budget. That's how we're going to save our money. We're going to reduce our lifestyle expenses, and that's how this is going to work. He in no shape or form says that that's what we need to do. We need to look for these outside causes of destroying our wealth.
I love it. And then he digs into the earning potential, and this just again reminded me of the training sessions I've been on using this calculator. And he just gave a simple example. So if you're going to have a 30-year working career, let's say from 30 to 60, you got your life figured out by 30, and you make $100,000 a year for 30 years, that's $3 million that's coming into your family finances. $3 million. Now, let's say you get raises on average of 5%. So $100,000 a year starting at 30, 5% raises. That's going to mean you're going to bring in $6.6 million over your 30-year working career. Like, that's a big number. So a couple points on that. When we say your greatest asset is you, what other asset do you have that's going to bring in $6.6 million? And then we also say your greatest investment, if you want to know where to be wealthy, where to invest, the number one place to invest is you. Think of that 5% raise with inflation. What if that was a 5% raise because you learned a new skill, you invested in yourself? As a business owner, you got better at running a business. Well, what if we could make that 5 or 10%? We went from 3 million to 6.6 million just on 5% more. What if we could do 10% more? Now we're talking $6 million, 15% more, $10 million. We could be talking an additional $10 million because you made an investment in you that made you 10 or 15% more money over each year over your lifetime. Like, that is the power of it. But the question is, how much of that money do you actually keep? How much actually stays with you? And I think that's an important thing. And I love that he said, because you would have lost me on, just reduce your lifestyle and stop having fun and doing all the things you like. No one wants to hear that. But if we can say, how do we do all that just by changing or increasing efficiencies, it's a much easier pill to swallow.
Yeah, and he does a great job breaking down the math with it, right? So you talked about that $3 million, you add the raises, that's $6.6 million, you add a 5% return, you're sitting at $12.9 million. So then he goes to say, what happens when we start adding those inefficiencies? And the first one he brings up, the number one, in our opinion, wealth destroyer, taxes. And he says the average American, I would say this is very true, 40%, could even be more in most cases, 40% of that 12.9 million typically is going to go to taxes. Because when you think about it, it's not just your income taxes, it's your property taxes, it's your capital gains taxes on your returns. Like, there's taxes on everything. You sell something, taxes. Like, there's one thing for sure, it's going to be taxes. So 40% of that is going to end up going to taxes. If you take that 12.9, that's going to reduce it to $7.8 million there. Done. $7.8 million. Tax is your number one wealth destroyer. Then he goes on to loan interest and, mortgages, credit cards, lines of credit, business loans. If you look at the average, and we've looked up this same number for Canadians as well, but he's saying the average is about 35% of that income overall is going to be paying interest payments long term. It's crazy, right? That's going to drop that $7.8 million down to $2.9 million right there.
Still got 2.9.
Still got 2.9, but we do need lifestyle spending. And this is the least in the categories. It's about, he says it's about 23.5%, the money that we spend to live and enjoy. We don't want to get rid of that one, right? We do need to live. We need to enjoy. But by the time we do spend that lifestyle money on top of it, that's going to bring us down to $216,000 left over those 30 years. $216,000. That is not enough to retire off of, especially for someone that's been used to living off of 100,000 plus the 5% every single year, right? So very quickly you can see how those, the taxes and the interest itself are going to erode that wealth. And we don't even stop there. Now, this is where Garrett focuses in the book, but a lot of the time we will talk with our clients about the additional wealth destroyers, I think, that really take a hold on that. We haven't even factored in. So we've got the loan interest. We don't have fees. What if you're investing and you have management expense fees? You've got fund fees, like all quietly compounding against you in the background. What about volatility? Like if you're taking this money and you are investing it, it's not going up consistently every single year. There's ups and downs in the market. We know very quickly that can erode your wealth. And then spending your money. Like if they spent that money, if along the years they bought a house, which is very likely, is any of that money going to be left at the end of the day, right? So there's a lot of different wealth destroyers that we can get a handle on. Like there's some that we have no control of but there's things that we can do absolutely to get control of these and to, again, plug or fill the gaps and make some of that money back.
I'm just hung up on the fact that the average person's going to spend 23.5% of their income that they work hard for, go to work every day, make money to have a lifestyle for their family, 23.5%. But the government's going to take a much larger percentage of 40. Mm-hmm. Like, and the banks and the credit card companies and all the interest is going to take larger amount than your actual lifestyle. Like, you know,
it's not cutting your lifestyle that's going to fix the problem.
Let's
it's
look
all
after
these
the
others.
big ones, right?
Yeah.
Let's look after the big ones. And then Garrett digs into the high risk, high return. And I love this too. And this ties into the whole volatility piece that he talks about. I think it's one of the biggest false teachings of traditional financial planning is you want higher return, you got to take higher risk. That is not how wealthy people feel at all. Higher risk, high return, no. It sounds logical, but it's just not true. If you think of what the definition of risk is it is the chance of loss. Okay, chance of going to zero. Why do you want to increase your chance of going to zero? It's not a great thing. And even so again, problem with traditional financial planning is they're doing it all wrong. They're forgetting about the taxes at 40 whatever percent and the interest charges and then the lifestyle, and they're taking over that little amount you have left and saying, "Oh, we need to increase your return. That's your secret to success." So in the example Garrett uses, instead of $12.9 million, you're down to $216,000. Well, he assumed a 5% growth rate on that. What if we were able to double that, take all kinds of crazy risk, double it to 10%? Well, now your retirement savings after 30 years of working go from $216,000 to roughly $600,000. Again, that's because your income at the time is going to be a couple $100,000 with those 5% raises. You don't have enough for 2 years of retirement. No. So, you know, that you're still nowhere near where you need to be long term. And when you have that higher risk for the potential higher return, well, then you get that volatility. And again, we've talked a lot about average return versus actual return, especially in retirement. I got a whole section in my book on that. Be the Bank, how volatility crushes your returns while you're working and especially while you're retired. So true wealth, okay, this is what the wealthy have figured out, and this is where most people don't. True wealth is built on efficiency, leverage, and control. Control. That's why it's the number one word in our company name. Control is what the wealthy focus on. Control, leverage, efficiency. It's not on these high risk, high return, traditional financial planning. Now, we want high returns, and we're going to get those by investing in ourselves, business, and hard assets like real estate or Bitcoin or gold or something. But traditional financial planning just says, great, let's buy some high risk stock and maybe it'll go up. That's not the secret to wealth.
That's a myth for sure. So we want to keep that control, and we want to reduce the inefficiencies, right? We want to reduce the taxes, the fees, the interest, the inefficiencies. Garrett gives an example from the book. If we just take that tax rate and we drop it from 40 to 36%, just from 40 to 36, if we can get our tax rate down, then we lower our interest rates from 35% to 20%. That will keep our increases from $216,000 to nearly $2.7 million. Zero risk. High risk does not equal high return. You don't need to add risk in order to increase your wealth. If you can get a hold of these inefficiencies, if you can plug the holes, you can reduce the taxes, you can reduce the fees, reduce the interest. It is crazy the amount of wealth you're going to keep in your own pocket, right? That's what he's trying to show us with these numbers. And the cool thing about that software that you notice, now we don't have the software up here to show everybody, but these numbers are real. Like you see it happen in real time. And he has the snapshots in the book that shows you the dramatic impact of getting a hold of these inefficiencies. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. So we want to be efficient. How do we do that?
Yeah, we know what we want to do. How do we do it? So,
yeah. but again, like I can't emphasize enough that like again, people are focused on that tiny little rate of return, and we talked about taxes is here. The interest you pay is here. Like those are the big ticket items, and if you can get a little more efficient on those, what it does over the long term, well, as the numbers just showed us, it's huge. So how do we solve this? And Garrett talks a lot about this, and Garrett's beliefs are very similar. Our belief in one of the best strategies out there is properly purchase high cash value life insurance. Okay. So why is that going to help us with all or having way more money? Well, again, let's go back to those big ticket things we talked about that's affecting our long-term wealth, taxes and interest charges. So with a properly purchased high cash value life insurance policy, we're going to eliminate the taxes on the growth. We're going to eliminate the taxes when you go to spend it, tax-free loans, and we're going to eliminate the taxes when you die. So now we've got 3 levels of taxation we've eliminated, and we've already identified tax as the number one thing that's eroding our wealth. So if we can get a handle on those 3 levels of taxation, that's exponential difference. Again, what do most people focus on? Well, can I get an 8% return instead of a 6% return? That's not what's going to do it. So you create this tax-free, stable investment. Okay, stable, rock solid. Cash value life insurance, guaranteed to go up every day, guaranteed not to go down, 150-year track record. So you don't have that volatility. You have strong, stable. Very little fees. We talked about the importance of fees. Average mutual fund, 2% or whatever it is today. Fee on this is around, on average, 0.15 versus 2. Like incredible reduction in fees. So we reduce the fees. Eliminate the spending. You're on the compound growth curve. You go spend, pay cash for something, a down payment, whatever it is, an investment, whatever. Well, what if we could not stop the compounding, borrow against our cash value, and still keep compounding, still keep rolling that compound interest snowball? So you can use the cash value life insurance to finance purchases. You can pay off high interest debt. Think of that interest savings we're talking about. Again, the number 2 wealth destroyer in Garrett's example. You can use it to fund investments. We love it for an opportunity fund. You know, we look at this as our opportunity/emergency fund. Opportunities are a lot sexier. You got the strong, stable base with these really low fees, eliminating those 3 levels of taxes. And then when an opportunity comes along, you don't stop the compounding. You let it continue to compound because it'll compound exactly the same whether you take a tax-free loan or not. We multiply our dollars, take that tax-free loan, and then take advantage of the opportunities. So if we can use it to finance purchase, pay off high interest, fund investments, and smooth out our cash flow. And this is big for business owners too, right? Where do you park your cash? Well, you should be parking it in a cash value life insurance because you're going to have upturns and downturns in business, and we can access those tax-free loans for the debt for when cash is a little tight, and we can fund it when cash is better. But again, strong, stable.
Be the bank, right?
You can be the bank.
Be the bank.
Okay, so what are some of the other strategies he digs into this chapter? You know, we talked about this one before on a podcast. Renegotiate interest rates. Trying to get a better rate on your mortgage, but also on loans. Using a mortgage broker for your mortgages. But you'd be amazed how much you can save on loans if you shop around too, because typically people go to the bank and say, I want a loan, and they say this is the interest rate. Well, if you come in with a couple competing bids, banks are going to negotiate on those loans. Eliminate term insurance. So again, we're big proponents of cash value life insurance, and we focus on the cash value, but it comes with a death benefit. And that death benefit is going to be very important long-term, especially, but could be important in short-term if you die. But as that death benefit grows, which is for some people just a byproduct of the cash value, they buy it for the cash value. As that death benefit grows, you're able to eliminate term insurance. Well, there's just another expense that you've been able to eliminate. And what's that going to do over the long term? It's going to allow more money to go into either your lifestyle or hopefully some lifestyle, some savings, investment, opportunity fund. We can recover lost dollars. So premiums we paid for that term insurance, the fees, if we invest that back into our system, again, we're going to do that. And then reallocate some insurance expenses. So one of the things I did after attending this workshop a number of years ago is I looked at my home and auto policy and I was like, what are my deductibles? Like, well, I don't know, they were like $250 or $500. Well, I'm never going to make a claim. So like I increased them to $1,000 at the time. And then I remember a bunch of years ago, we had that little thing that connects the water hose under your sink to your fridge. Well, that just came unattached from our fridge one day and flooded the entire upstairs of our home. And it was a $60,000 insurance claim. The only house insurance claim I've ever had in my life. It was 4 months of hell living on plywood. It was horrible. But what happened? My insurance premiums doubled for the next 5 years. So I was paying an extra $1,500 for the next 5 years. And I thought I was doing good having a $1,000 deductible. And I looked at that and I go, so my insurance rates doubled from $1,500 to $3,000 roughly. I go, and my deductible was $1,000. So if I had another $2,000 expense or claim, do you think I'm ever going to claim a $2,000 or $3,000 claim knowing what it does to my insurance rates? So I thought $1,000 was good. Well, I jacked it up considerably more. I'm not going to make a claim under $5,000 or $10,000 in my home insurance if I know it's going to double for the next 5 years. So you start eliminating some of those things, and every improvement you make in your efficiency is a permanent raise in your cash flow. Permanent raise in your cash flow, every efficiency. So there's all kinds of efficiencies within there you can do without affecting your lifestyle.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip, Darren, to go back and check those types of things. Now, how does this tie into the Rockefeller strategy, right? This is part of the Rockefeller book. Well, the Rockefeller way uses the high cash value life insurance as the foundation of the Rockefeller Method, right? This is what they use as their base. They know, like the Rockefellers don't rely on market risk or luck. That's not what they did. They built systems that were efficient and repeatable, right? So they added these these high cash value life insurance as the foundation. They included the trusts to protect the wealth from tax and from lawsuits to keep control. They always say, control, own everything, control nothing. That's what they stand for. So they use the trust. They use the private family banking. They use professional management to ensure continuity. And that's why their wealth has stayed for 6 generations, right? They follow these philosophies. They've plugged the gaps. They've gone back. They've eliminated the taxes with this strategy, right? Every time a new Rockefeller child is born, they put one of these high cash value life insurance policies on the inside of the trust. That grows tax-free. Just imagine that compounding, no spending, tax-free inside of that trust going on for generation after generation. There's a reason that this has worked. It's repeatable. You can do it. And we've talked about, even doing a few small changes to what you're doing. You don't have to go the whole Rockefeller strategy right out the gates and add the trusts and add, the whole thing. You can start with the foundation, right? Start by making that phone call to your insurance company and getting some of those costs done. Look at learning more about high cash value life insurance, the infinite banking strategy. How can you set up your foundation, take back that control, reduce the taxes, reduce the risks? There's so many pieces that you can do leading up to the entire plan. You don't need to take it. Some people get a little overwhelmed, I think, when they hear Rockefeller strategy. That's a lot. I'm not a Rockefeller, you know what I mean? I can't do this. You absolutely can do this. You can reduce from 40% tax to 36% tax. I promise you. You can reduce your interests from what we said earlier down. You can do it. You just have to take the time to learn about it, and it's not going to come from the bank down the road. They're not going to teach you this, right? You do need to take the time to learn about these strategies yourself, implement, work with someone that knows how to implement. This is what we do at Control and Compound every day, but work with someone that knows what they're doing, because small steps towards progress will make huge changes long term.
Yeah, I love that. And you made a great point there where some people go, well, I'm not a Rockefeller, or even some people call us up and they go, oh, I want to do the Rockefeller thing. And then we look at where they are financially and stuff. And it's like, okay, I don't think you need a series of trusts and all that stuff now. But remember, the foundation is cash value life insurance. Okay. So if you want to be wealthy, we copy what the wealthy do. Well, the wealthy are doing it. But if everyone that is listening did this cash value life insurance, then we're tackling those big inefficiencies. We're tackling the taxes. We're tackling the interest charges. Like, those are the big ticket items. So I love this chapter. I guess the key takeaways would be stop chasing high risk. You need to chase efficiency, focus on reducing your taxes, paying less interest, lowering your fees and your insurance costs, eliminate volatility, and maintain your lifestyle. Efficiency is the greatest financial thing you can do. Efficiency is going to maximize your wealth way more than any of this other stuff. So that efficiency starts with eliminating those big things, starts with cash value life insurance. You might get to the Rockefeller Method someday if you're not ready. Some people might be ready for it today. But regardless, you can start with eliminating those big things with high cash value life insurance.
Yes. And if you are ready to get started, you're listening to this and you want to learn more, I'm just going to remind you one more time that Masterclass link is down below. November 25th. You're not going to want to miss it. Some really great insights. Like, we're just covering Garrett's book here. He's going to be there to talk about it live. So you're going to want to be there with your questions. Click the link below.
And if you're ready to book a call with one of our wealth coaches, we get a education session. They're happy to go through and just teach you how this concept works. On a Zoom call, reach out to us at controlandcompound.com and book your complimentary session. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching that episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that like button. Hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. And if you want to learn more about us, go to controlandcompound.com. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. The information contained in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is separate and apart from the wealth coach services provided by Darren Mitchell and Associates, Inc. to its qualified clients. Control and Compound Financial expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, or any other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast or the information in it. The views expressed here are those of each participant and guest and not necessarily those of or endorsed by Control and Compound Financial, its affiliates, subsidiaries, and their respective directors, shareholders, officers, or employees. For full disclosure, visit controlandcompound.com/podcast-media.